additional questions, and I actually spoke with the MSBA representative today and told them that I would strongly recommend that we resubmit it, and this has to be done by the 19th of December.
So they wiped out that whole issue about the priorities and...
No, the priority's still there, and the high school is named as North Reading's priority. But if you have more than one statement of interest and you didn't resubmit it, they're now saying, even though you resubmitted it, or you submitted it originally, it's no.
They're going to throw it out.
They're going to throw it out.
Okay.
The president-elect says he's going to fill schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We best get to the pipeline.
So, so that's what we're doing this week, is going through the business. I'm going to be, tomorrow night is a meeting of the secondary building committee. I'm going to meet with the architect, Wayne Hardiker, the principal, John Crochet, and try to get this done. However, while I also asked, does the school committee and the board of selectmen have to take another vote, even though you took one 2 years ago, and then 3 weeks ago you and the board of selectmen took a joint vote. My recommendation is that I will read the resolution, and if someone would then, because it's very lengthy, it has to be worded exactly the way MSBA states, and then if you would then support that motion and second it, that we can get this work done.
What about the select?
I have to find a way to get to the board of selectmen before the 19th and have a similar vote, which I think I'll be able to do.
Okay.
All right, is that clear?
I think we might, I mean, if it's a lot, my one concern is it's a lot of work to get done in 11 or 10 days. I saw the high school one, and the new form had a lot of detail that you had to put into it. I mean, I think we have to do it. It might as well have an updated, you know, an updated statement of interest there, definitely.
Well, I actually, when the deadline came, the deadline was November 15th, so we resubmitted the high school on the 14th, 4 days after the joint session. And it is a whole new form, and it was almost impossible at the 11th hour to resubmit the high school because they kept on asking for an enrollment verification. Well, I had the copy of the enrollment verification from MSBA, but they wanted to see, even though it was stamped by them, approved by them, they wanted to see it on their actual form on the computer. So you have to get permission to enter the data that already had been approved onto the computer. So we did that Friday night, and then the high school statement of interest was submitted correctly and approved. At that point, I then decided I will try to do the middle school just in case, because I hadn't got an answer. We were locked out. Tried again on Saturday to get in, and I was locked out. So I think that what you need is permission from MSBA to submit each one of these. And since in our earlier conversations I had indicated the high school was the priority, that was the only one that they were going to allow to be resubmitted, which I think is what drove the letter that I got on Friday of reopening the window for the, for the next week or so and get it in by the 19th. So if you don't mind, I'll read this resolution, and it has to be worded, and it'll be entered the same way as the one at the high school. Yeah.
Make sure you take every word down.
I'll give you the exact words. Okay. Resolved, having convened an open meeting on December 8, 2008, the North Reading School Committee, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest dated, and it will be dated December 18th, one day before, 2008, for North Reading Middle School, located at 19 Sherman Road, North Reading, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority category for which North Reading may be invited to apply to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The following priorities have been included in the statement of interest for North Reading Middle School. stop here. These priorities are unchanged. They're the same priorities that we submitted 2 years ago. 1, replacement or renovation of a building which is structurally unsound or otherwise in a condition seriously jeopardizing the health and safety of school students where no alternative exists. 2, elimination of existing severe overcrowding. 4, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments. 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of a heating system in a schoolhouse to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs. And 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of North Reading to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Could you repeat that and give me a motion?
Think I can?
Then you got, actually, can I have a motion to, what would the motion be to?
Refresh.
Refresh
and
the middle
resubmit.
school statement of interest.
Yes.
Can I have a motion?
Yes.
To do so. Motion by Mr. Bowers, can I have a second?
Second.
And-
Second
and
by-
excuse me, as worded.
As worded. Second by Mr. Venezia.
Second.
Comments? Cliff? Can we get the, before Cliff, can we get the heating system done in the next week or two? Mr. Nelson?
I was on the rich part.
Cliff, you have any?
Yes, the president-elect met with the governors,
Right.
and I suspect that one of the things that he said was, we want to build a whole bunch of roads and bridges, and school buildings was a key word. And I suspect that this may possibly be a fallout from that, and I think it's a great idea to get these things in motion.
Have the plans ready in case the money
We
shows up.
probably won't have a plan ready.
No, but
because-
have the information
Okay.
ready in case the money, I don't know where the money's coming from.
I don't know, but you know what, it puts people to work and
Right.
then you get money.
Exactly.
Well, I can't think of a better place to build schools than North Reading.
I can't.
Right.
And improve heating systems
Yeah,
and thermal
exactly.
efficiencies and all those other
Yes.
things.
As soon- Any other comment on the resubmission and the refreshing of the middle school statement of interest? So hearing now, we have a motion by Mr. Bauer, second by Mr. Venezia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. 2010 fiscal year 2010 budget development. Mr. Nelson, anything to?
Well, this is really an update. We're in the home stretch in the development of the FY10 budget. Our plan is to release it next week. We've been closely following the direction we're receiving from the finance planning team. We'll be providing scenarios that show what our level services costs will be, and then a series of reductions that the school committee can consider to bring the budget down from level services to what ultimately the revenue availability will be. That revenue availability is a little bit of a moving target in December. We've learned that in the past, that the number we try to hit in December generally changes as the year progresses. But we do know that these are serious times, so we're working hard to develop all these scenarios, ranging from self-supporting extracurricular, self-supporting sports, changes in calendar, and a series of smart reorganization options. So I'm confident we will have that for the school committee at our deadline next week of December 15th.
Is that going to need to be revised? Like what I heard today, Sal DeMacy was saying something about how local aid might be cut by as much as 10%.
He said 5%, it could be as much as 10. We're kind of working on a 5% number right now.
We were
At least
10% on the radio just
Yeah.
before it came in.
the finance planning team working on a 5%. I would think that they could find other places to cut the state budget before they cut chapter 78, but
You'd like to think that.
I'd probably be wrong, wouldn't I?
No, there are.
There's gotta be.
It's just a matter of
It's
what
a matter of
causes
priority.
a
Exactly.
priority to. There are some small, earmarks that just benefit a small group of people.
I mean, it's just amazing to me, and there's been and I think Cliff, Maureen, and whoever reads the email seen this, there's been an ongoing, raging email stream this week on the Mask listserv about funding education. And the amazing thing is, look at the outrage that's been generated over the raising of the tolls, which is a legitimate issue.
Sure,
I don't
I
think it's,
hate it, but
right,
I'm
I don't think it's an illegitimate
I-
issue. But you look at the outrage raised over that as opposed to the outrage of that's really not raised, at least in one voice, when you have to cut education programs. Yeah, a certain group gets upset, but it's not a kind of a coalescence of all groups coming together saying, no, you can't make sports 100% funded by fees. You can't charge my kid $250 to take the bus. We come to accept it, and I think that's the problem that we have now. But
One of the things that frustrates me is that I look on the list of Chapter 70 monies that are handed down to communities, and there are a large number of communities that are receiving more Chapter 70 aid
in our budget.
than we spend per pupil
Right.
total.
Right.
And there are communities that are, I have $25,000 per student versus our $9,000. These are 07, I don't know what they are today,
Right.
but these are 07 numbers. And it's very, very frustrating to look at that. In that same correspondence in the last few days, I've actually offered a couple of solutions to the problem that would make some reasonable amount of sense. And the thing that's frustrating to me is that although I made a number of comments and prospective solutions to the problem, I got zero back in feedback from other school committee members
Right.
about what I put out there. Now, I realized that I was simplifying and that you have to add a lot more to that in order to present it to the legislature. But it seems to me the problem is that there are some cities that are getting large chunks of Chapter 70 money under the current formula, and that they are heavily represented by legislators
Right.
who aren't going to pay any attention to doing anything with Chapter 70 because it doesn't affect them, or they don't want it to affect them in a negative way. And I kind of overlooked them in the solution as a result, and basically said, if you're looking for something to do in Chapter 70, just determine that the legitimate cost of the foundation ought to be about what we spend, because we still have reasonable scores, and we're about on the bottom of the barrel as far as expenditures.
Right.
So that would be kind of like a reasonable number to put out there for a foundation budget.
Right.
And then, instead of giving back 17% of the foundation number, how about putting out a half of that foundation? In our case, in this case, it would be about $4,500 per pupil, and put that across the board for all communities, and fund it by increasing the sales tax. And if you add it all up, the sales tax currently produces something like $20 billion a year. That's with a 5%. Make it 6%, and that's then $4 billion worth of funding. And you need about $2 billion to give back that whole $4,500. I mean, they already are funding some part of that. So, frustration, because I think the answer is very simple. And I'm sure that no one wants the sales tax to go up. I also said, stipulate that 1% is a lot.